ready? Shh. Oh, that works. Okay, I just want to talk about the work that was handed back to you guys just so you can understand how the marking has gone. For the ions that I gave you on Friday, those would max out at a merit, and let me explain to you why. So no one got more than a merit on those practice questions, so I don't want you guys freaking out if you didn't get an excellence. Let me show you guys what the marking schedule looks like. So this is the marking template that I'll be using on the assessment. What I do when I try to design my assessments is I try to give you guys 2 opportunities to show evidence. And the reason why is because I give you guys the first attempt, I give you feedback for that first attempt, and then if you are not happy with that mark, you can do the second attempt because I do take the higher of the 2 grades. Does that make sense? It helps ease a lot of the test anxiety I find, and that's why I've designed it that way. It also means that if you do really well in the first attempt, you don't have to do the second attempt, and you can use the extra lessons that we are using for the second attempt as study lessons for you. Does that make sense? All right. So, some things to kind of keep in mind. So, what you have to do is identify an ionic compound. In order to identify the ionic compound, you need to identify the cation and the anion. Now, I am going to separate the cation and the anion when it comes to the testing procedure, so that way there's not a potential for them to interfere with your results. So just kind of a reminder of what we're looking for at the achieved level. That is, figuring out the correct ion. So you see how that's where it's both the cation and the anion because it's the ionic compound. So that's that. Correct procedures. We're looking for the correct procedures in both the cation and the anion. Looking for all the precipitates in one ion, and then you tick it off. Or I took it off. So basically, I'm looking for, did you correctly identify the ion to be copper, for example? If the box is shaded in, what that's trying to indicate to you guys is that there isn't any precipitates in those reactions, so it's not part of my marking schedule. So some of you guys did do that on Friday. If you guys did the second anion identification, you would have noticed that it was the carbonate, and the carbonate doesn't have any precipitates. So there wouldn't be any precipitates for that reaction, so that's why it's grayed out here. Does that make sense? And then the last section of the internal is to write a short little report. It's barely even a report. It's kind of just a few paragraphs on talking about the impact the ions have to humans and on the environment. That is something that we see at achieved merit and excellence level, and the depth of your understanding is then going to show what grade you get. You need to pass both the practical section and the written section at the same mark in order to get that mark overall. So if you get an excellence on your practical section, but your writing section is only at the achieved level, then you're only going to get an achieved overall. Does that make sense? Sorry, that's how it is. Okay? And then these are the merit requirements, and then these are the excellence requirements, and then I give you a mark for the overall ion. So I look at both of these components here. Some of these things you can get away if it's just one. Some of them you have to get both of them for both cation and anion, but I give you a mark, and then from that mark I write it up here, and then that's your grade. Are we okay with that so far? All right, so 2 attempts, better of the 2. Now, some things to keep in mind, like I said, some of them only go up to certain levels. The reason why the ones that I gave you guys on Friday do not go up to the excellence level is because they don't have any complex ions in them. So the only anion with a complex ion is chloride. Everything else is not. All right? Now, it's not the end of the world if they do not have the complex ions, because if I will most likely assign you a complex ion with the cation to show that evidence. The other thing to keep in mind is if I have selected something that doesn't have a complex ion and both of these boxes are grayed out and you don't have that as a requirement, I can still mark excellence because of the essay section. Does that make sense? So I can have any ion on there. Don't think I'm going to necessarily pick the hard ions because they could then go up to excellence. I can pick an ion that only goes up to merit so long as you write your essays at excellence. So that's how everything is still fair game. The other thing to kind of keep in mind, so yeah, like your guys's, it doesn't go up past merit because most of you guys didn't have, or sorry, you guys didn't have anything that was a complex ion. Looking at the sheet that I wrote here, just some pointers on where a lot of people fell down. If you are getting a not achieved instead of an achieved, the main issue was that you hadn't identified the precipitate, and I need that in order to pass you. Be mindful that I do encourage you to write the precipitate both in the formulaic form and in the word form. So if you make a mistake on the formula, I can still mark you to pass from the written words. Are you okay with that so far? So that was the barrier for a lot of people between the not achieved and the achieved. For the barrier between the achieved and the merit, it had to do with the quality of your justifications, like Ms. Valasola was saying to you guys. So for example, you would notice that I've written on there, like, you're not explaining to me that you know that hydroxide and carbonates are bases. That was something I was looking for in a lot of sheets. The other thing I was looking for is solubility rules. So a lot of you didn't mention that all sulfates are soluble with the exception of barium sulfate. So that was something else I was looking for in your answers. So you can see in here I said barium sulfate is insoluble. If the unknown was sulfate, a white precipitate would have formed when barium sulfate was added. So you see that's justifications that I'm looking for. All right, so use those solubility rules. That is on your resource sheet. So if you didn't have your solubility rules, I would have noted it, and then that would have brought you from a merit to an achieved. Other things that people might have made a mistake that are silly is just the equations. Not so much that I'm looking for these states here, but the charges on them and when it doesn't have a charge. Formulas as well, but that was less of a problem with you guys. Other things to keep in mind is that some people did not link their observations to what was causing it. So understanding, like, what is that white precipitate? I need to know what it is. You have multiple ways you can showcase that. You can either write it over here in your justifications. You can write it over here, and you can be clear that that is my white precipitate because I've done my observations, and then this is my precipitate that I've identified from it. You could also go through in the equations and write down your states because that indicates to me you know that that solid is that silver chloride. So lots of different options. I would suggest you guys do more rather than less because it's then basically just safety nets. If you make a mistake with the states here, I can forgive you if you have it written down somewhere else and vice versa. So it just provides me more evidence. Are we good so far? All right. Plan for today is I want you guys to now try identifying a cation. I won't do a model answer for you guys because I will do that at the end. I figure you guys have an idea of what to do now after looking at the anions, that you could do a cation without me like spoon feeding a first example for you guys, but I will go over the answer and that way you guys can self-mark to see where your mistakes are with that one. What did I want to add about that? Oh, yes. I have been playing with the template sheet, seeing what you guys have been doing on that free piece of paper, which has been a good kind of learning experience for me. So I've redesigned it like this, so that way it's all on one page. You like that? Okay. We'll try this one out today. I want to make sure that I can gather all the information I need in order to pass. It is a little bit tighter space-wise, but I figured if you're just writing white precipitate, you don't actually need all that much space. So we'll try this one out today. I'll get you guys an unknown. We'll get out the goggles, and then I will stop you maybe about 20 minutes till the end or 25 minutes till the end, so that way we can go over the answer. Cool. All right, that's us.